Nope. What do you think? That's right, before we get into the meat of today's video, let's talk about today's sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit company that delivers fresh, quality produce from the farm to your door in less than a week, allowing you to savor summer flavors right from home. With over 30 dinner recipes to choose from every week, HelloFresh offers more choices than any meal kit. The best part is, all of these meals can be made in around 30 minutes or less. This week I've been delivered barbecue chicken sandwiches, which I'm making here. With a diverse menu like theirs, you really can't go wrong, even with picky eaters. HelloFresh even offers veggie, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals to make it easy to stick to your goals. I think even Helga Hufflepuff would approve. If you're like me and you value saving time and eating well, then I highly recommend you give HelloFresh a try. Today, you can do just that for free. Just go to hellofresh.com and use code HarryPotterTheory16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. So, what are you waiting for? Again, that's 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts if you visit hellofresh.com and use the code HarryPotterTheory16. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Have you ever wondered how spells are created? Well, the answer is simpler than you might have guessed. It's all thanks to a handful of extremely cunning witches and wizards who saw a problem in their life and tried to create a magical solution. As we look through the historical records of the wizarding world, we find no shortage of famous wizards and witches who have left their mark on magic and created spells that are still in use in modern times. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the most famous spells and their creators as we go over the history of magical inventors. Let's get into it. Badeea Ali Ben Copper. Ben Copper and his friend Badeea Ali were both students at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in the mid-1980s. Although Copper was sorted into Gryffindor and Ali into House Ravenclaw, the two ended up creating a spell together. This particular magical attack was an updated version of the traditional knockback jinx that the students at Hogwarts had used for generations. Named Flipendo Maxima, due to its greater effects, this particular spell might have actually been quite dangerous for the students, since it caused them to fall backwards, and oftentimes their heads would bounce violently off the stone floors of the school. At a different time during her stay at Hogwarts, Badeea Ali created another spell. This one summoned a dazzling meteor shower in the sky, and, as Ali would later come to discover, she could even use the incantation to transform the paintings at Hogwarts and fill them with their own falling stars. William Weasley. William Weasley was the oldest member of the Weasley siblings. His job as a cursebreaker often took him far away from the Weasley's family home, known as the Burrow. During his time away, Bill used his magical abilities to become one of Gringotts' greatest employees. In a showdown in Egypt, Bill even defeated a mummy. But perhaps the greatest achievement came during the Second Wizarding War. During that time, Bill invented a spell that would block any dark mark-wearing Death Eater from entering a building. This barrier would become pivotal in the battles that the Order of the Phoenix would participate in throughout the war. Severus Snape. As a former Death Eater and a member of the Order of the Phoenix, Severus Snape led an interesting life, and in addition to his many missions in service to Albus Dumbledore, Snape was actually quite an accomplished spellmaker. During his time as a student in Hogwarts and as a professor, Snape created many of the spells that students use to this day. Snape's Langlock curse was a particular popular one. With a simple swing of a wand, this spell would lock a target's tongue to the roof of their mouth, preventing them from speaking. As a frequent victim of bullying, Snape undoubtedly found this spell useful when he was on the receiving end of jeers. In the same vein, Snape also created a spell that would cause anyone nearby to temporarily experience a deafening noise, so that he could gossip without fear of being overheard. This spell was called the Muffliato charm, and Harry Potter often used it in class. But perhaps Snape's most famous curse was Sectum Sempra. This one caused painful cuts to magically appear on its victim's skin. Harry used it in fights against Draco Malfoy, the Inferi who protected one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, and even against its creator, Severus Snape himself. Gilderoy Lockhart. Professor Gilderoy Lockhart's legacy isn't one to be very proud of. On his journey to eventually becoming a star teacher at Hogwarts, Lockhart had regularly exaggerated his own abilities and even lied about his achievements. He was famously exposed as a fraud when confronted by Harry Potter and Ron Weasley, shortly before the pair entered the Chamber of Secrets. Unfortunately, in the aftermath, Lockhart erased his own memory, but before his downfall, Gilderoy Lockhart actually created one of the most charmingly narcissistic spells in the wizarding world. Through an incantation, Lockhart was able to project his image into the sky via the holographic spell, so that everyone around could enjoy his beauty. Albus Dumbledore. We can't be sure how many spells Albus Dumbledore created, but according to the records of Hogwarts, there's only one that was attributed to him. This was the Patronus Charm communication spell. During the Second Wizarding War, Dumbledore smartly realized that there were too many ways that the Order of the Phoenix could be deceived, and be lured into traps by false messages. To combat this, he created a spell that would use an individual's Patronus to transmit messages, since this was always unique to a non-dark wizard. Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle, more famously known as Lord Voldemort, was an extremely accomplished spellcrafter. Before his resurrection, Riddle created Mort Morte, the spell that set the sky alight with the Dark Mark. And he even designed the spell that would kill Albus Dumbledore, the curse that rested on the ring of Marvolo Gaunt. Yes, Dumbledore died to Avada Kedavra, but this spell would have killed him. Tom Riddle also created a spell that allowed him to fly without the use of a mount or broom. This was called unsupported flight, and although the films depict many Death Eaters achieving a similar feat, it was actually quite rare. It was a technique that wizards and witches had spent centuries trying to master, and it wasn't until Tom Riddle's discovery that it was finally perfected. Basil Horton and Randolph Kietch. Basil Horton and Randolph Kietch were a pair of famous Quidditch players, but they were more than just a pair of Falmouth members of the Falmouth Falcons. They were also the creators of the Comet Trading Company. You might recognize this name because it's responsible for some of the most famous broomstick models in production. Well, Horton and Kietch's Comet broomsticks were so beloved by Quidditch players for their incredible speed and also their sudden stopping precision. This was actually achieved by a spell that the pair of founders created, known as the Breaking Charm. It allowed their broomsticks to stop on a dime, and was also quite safe. Miranda Goshawk. Over 50 years before Harry Potter's final showdown against Lord Voldemort, a young witch named Miranda Goshawk created a pretty gross spell. Miranda's goal was simple. She wanted her older siblings to finally listen to her and stop walking all over her. To do this, Miranda created the Bat Bogey Hex, which transformed her target's boogers into disgusting, bat-like creatures. Thanks to its revolting nature, the hex was massively popular among students at Hogwarts. At one point, a student from an unknown house actually used the hex to cause bats to fly out of every member of his class's nose. Levina Monkstanley. Levina Monkstanley was a witch who lived hundreds of years before the rise of Lord Voldemort. During her life, as an unspeakable in the Department of Mysteries in the 18th century, Levina spent her time surrounded by the unknown. Her job dealt with the mysteries of death, time, love, and consciousness, but that wasn't quite enough for her. Monkstanley also decided to create her own spells. She was the witch responsible for the wand lighting charm, which caused a wizard's wand tip to cast a bluish light. She also created the opposite spell, the wand extinguishing charm, which essentially turned the light off. Elliot Smethwyck. A decade or two before Basil Horton and Randolph Kietch created the Comic Broomstick Company, a wizard named Elliot Smethwyck made an important contribution to broomstick riding. Realizing that the devices were quite uncomfortable to ride, Elliot created the cushioning charm, which would create a magical seat wherever a rider sat. Daisy Pennifold. Like many other Quidditch players and fans, Daisy Pennifold was a witch who used her expert skills as a spellcaster to create a charm for the sport. Her slowing charm was used to stop quaffles from falling straight to the ground, and instead made them slowly descend so that Quidditch players didn't need to slow down the pace of the game by grabbing the balls from the pitch. Orabella Nuttley. The mending charm has been shown to be quite a versatile piece of magic. If used properly, the incantation is able to repair almost any inanimate object that has been broken, but the spell, surprisingly, isn't even that old. It was created by a witch named Orabella Nuttley only a few hundred years before the rise of Lord Voldemort. Nuttley, who was employed by the Ministry of Magic, used the spell in the aftermath of an incident at the Colosseum in Rome, where she was forced to repair the millennia-old building. Urquhart Rackharrow. Urquhart Rackharrow was an accomplished healer in the wizarding community and lived in the mid-17th century. Although you might suspect that much of the wizarding world, like that of Muggles, suffered from a lack of sophisticated medicine, you'd be wrong. Wizards and witches had almost always been exceptional healers and were able to cure almost any mortal malady that they were afflicted with. So when we look at Rackharrow's most famous spell, the Entrail Expelling Curse, it's hard to figure out exactly what the healthcare provider was trying to achieve. Some thought that this spell literally caused a target's colon to be ripped from their insides and drawn out of their body. But Rackharrow, as we've already mentioned, wasn't a dark wizard of any type. He wouldn't have used the charm to cause harm. So, in all actuality, the spell probably just alleviates the symptoms of constipation in its target, although the students of Hogwarts probably didn't waste time using it with ill intent. Herpo the Foul. Herpo the Foul might have been the most powerful dark wizard of the ancient world. Any wizarding historian would tell you that Herpo was a terrible sorcerer, and would probably point to his creation of the basilisk as his most horrifying contribution to magic. But there was one more thing that he made that might have been even worse. It was Herpo who devised a way to fracture a soul and preserve it in physical objects so that a dark wizard could unnaturally prolong their life. This was the spell that Tom Riddle would use to survive his first death. And it was Tom Riddle's Horcruxes that would ultimately take Albus Dumbledore's life. And that's it for this video. Do you want a part 2? There are still more witches and wizards to cover. Let me know in the comments. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.